Alright, so here we are, our first video review, and I'm reviewing a game that's not incredibly bad, but it's not amazingly great either. It's called Vice Project Doom for the old NES. It's made by a company called Sammy America, which, from my research, was one of the few games that was really produced by them for the NES. The other three I've never heard of, and it's probably better that way. Because when you get down to it, this game's primarily a clone of many other games you've probably heard of at one point or another. I'll get to that in a bit, though. The story is pretty much non-existent and a copy of many other games at the same time. You play as Hart, a cop, probably working as a vice cop, and he's chasing after some dude in a car. When the car gets destroyed, you find out the driver wasn't even human, and Hart decides to investigate a little bit further. From here, you actually get a bunch of cutscenes, not unlike the Ninja Gaiden series, and the story is pretty similar. You'll see that the scenes aren't the only thing they copy from Ninja Gaiden. Many of the creatures you find in the gameplay mechanics are also strikingly similar in style. I'll be honest, the storyline isn't going to be what keeps you going, because it's pretty lame. I'm not going to spoil it for you yet. I might actually do that later on, but we'll see. The interesting thing about this game is that although it's primarily a platforming action game, it's got a couple other things slapped in there as well. It makes things a little bit interesting. There's two driving stages where you drive your car along a vertical route and get to blast everything in your path. The first stage is like this, and one of the final stages is like this as well. It's a nice change of pace from the rest of the game. You get to fire your guns with one button and shift gears with the other. This doesn't really make you travel the route faster, it just allows you to move around the screen faster. I prefer to keep it in second gear, but depending on how comfortable you are and how your reflexes are, you may prefer a slower or faster option. It's a nice change of pace, and it would have been nice to see more of these stages, or even a standalone game for something like this, but I guess they didn't want to stray too far from the main platforming in this game. The other thing is that these stages are pretty simple. I think it took more damage from hitting walls than the other enemies that are going for you in this. It's also amazing when you look at it to see how much crap is actually laying in the streets this entire time. The other different stage is two segments of a shooting part. Think of the old arcade game Operation Wolf on NES and with a target that moves way too fast. If you run out of ammo or grenades, you're screwed, simply put. It would have been nice to put a few ammo pickups just sitting there for you, instead of relying on good aim and hoping the enemies drop ammo. Fortunately, although they are challenging, they aren't impossible. And as I said, there's only two of them. Now on to the main portion of the game. You have three weapons to slay the enemies. Chances are you'll probably mainly use the first. The manual calls it a laser whip, but they may as well call it a lightsaber. It's just the easiest to use, though. Sure, you have to be up close to hit people with it, but it's my preferred weapon to use. The second option you have available to you is what's supposedly a 44 Magnum. I didn't start using it till the very end of the game where the enemies start concentrating on throwing crap at you instead of just running into you. It has no range and the bullet's slow moving. By the time the bullet reaches the target, you could have ran over there and smacked them with the whip. The third weapon you have is the grenade. You don't get a ton of these, and they're more useful during the shooting segments because of the splash damage. But if you do have trouble with a boss or some enemies, sometimes they make things easier because one grenade can usually do 2 or 3 points of damage if you throw it right. Fortunately, for the gun and grenade, enemies will also drop ammo for them. B's correspond to bullets and G for grenades. Not gonna lie, it confused me at first because I thought it was G for gun and B for bomb, but I didn't have a manual in front of me. Only reason why I knew the whip was a whip, not a sword, because I had to look it up on an FAQ. The graphics are very nice for the game. Most stages are pretty gritty looking, but others have a nice brightness to them, which gives them a nice bit of contrast to the rest of the game. Once again, though, I can't help but compare the game to Ninja Gaiden, because of the graphic style. And the first Ninja Gaiden came out in '89, and the second in '90, so I can't really say that they took the style from Vice. Hell, a few stages even look like a few stages from Batman. Here, take a look. Here's a train level that's featured in Vice. It's one that's later on. And here's the train stage from Ninja Gaiden 2. It looks a little familiar, doesn't it? Also in Ninja Gaiden 2, here's stage 3-1, which features the lightning. Again, looks a little similar. Here's another stage in Vice, Project Doom. It's one of the grittier looking stages. And here's a stage in Batman that I just thought kind of looked almost similar, at least in style. I don't know, maybe it's just me. The sound for the most part is pretty catchy, but some of the later levels it feels like the music quality drops. They go for dramatic and fail because it just doesn't sound good at all. Here, take a listen to this one. This is one of the final stages in the game. The biggest thing about this game is that it starts off very easy, but the end stages are just frustratingly difficult. It's not uncommon to have about 10 projectiles darting for you on the screen. Fortunately, Heart can take quite a bit of damage, and near the end of the stage is usually some food that restores a good portion of your health. During the stage you might find bottles, which only restore 2 points, but you'd be surprised how well those 2 points can carry you. You also only get 3 lives, but if you collect 100 coins, you get an extra one. But it's not really necessary because you get infinite continues. Near the end of the game, though, they pull the same shit that Ninja Gaiden does, and figure if you die, you move back a few stages to torture you. I hated that so much, and although Vice isn't nearly as difficult as Ninja Gaiden is, as in, they don't have that damn bug where if you stand at the wrong spot, the enemies keep spawning, it's still maddening to have us play a stage just because you got to the final boss with low health and got annihilated. Speaking about dying, when you do so, you lose all your ammo except for 20 bullets for your gun and 5 grenades. However, it's pretty easy to gain more back because a lot of the enemies just drop the ammo anyway. Plus, you do keep your coin count, so even when continuing from a game over, you still can keep them all. So if you have 99 coins, 0 lives, and you die, it's probably better because that way you could just get one more coin and get an extra life. There's also a score, but it's completely useless. You don't get any high scores. There's no extra lives for getting so many points. So, I guess you can use it for bragging rights among your friends, but considering that this is an older game and not a lot of people have Nintendos anymore, unless you know people that are using a computer to play it, you're probably not going to be bragging about your score. You can easily finish the game in about an hour. Without a password system or any way to save your game, it's probably for the best. But before I finish this review, though, let me speak about the bosses. They may seem difficult, but once you get the patterns down, they're insanely easy. Check these out, and you might even memorize the patterns without even playing the damn game. Overall, the game, although it clones Ninja Gaiden quite a bit, and probably a couple other games too, it's actually pretty good. Graphics look good, it sounds good, and although the storyline is confusing as hell, it's actually a fun play that I could recommend to anybody that likes Ninja Gaiden. It's a little bit easier, so just don't expect much more of a challenge. My final score? 7 out of 10. This is Reaper, and as always, happy fragging!